Well, folks, week 11 delivered. This is your week 12 preview pod. We got the full Duck Buck Bros. Shout out to Reagan for the name. Reagan, Howie, Laner, we're all on. What's up, boys?
How's it going,
How
man?
we doing, Laner?
We're fired up. And I messed up last episode. I'm taking full ownership, Reagan. I'm not even blaming you. I'm taking full ownership. We hyped up Ohio State. We hyped up Indiana. We hyped up A&M. They're the three undefeated teams. But what we failed to talk about is the fact that Kurt Signetti and Mike Elko are both just in year two at their respective schools and both have their programs undefeated. We are in the craziest coaching carousel I've ever seen in my lifetime. We're talking about guys who have been at schools for decades in Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State and a lot of other coaches who are in years 3 and 4 of their programs who got fired. And we have these guys in Kurt Signetti and Mike Elko who are both just in year two and have done absolutely incredible turnarounds. Indiana, 10-0 starts, 2 consecutive years for the first time in school history. Texas A&M, 9 wins for the first time since Johnny Manziel was their quarterback. Unbelievable stuff. Shout out to Sig. Shout out to Elko. They're building incredible things. We had to give the hard intro, but Howie, I'm kicking it to you, my man.
Yeah, we love doing what we do, and we can only do what we do because of Duck Buck Co. And we love them so much. Uh, I'm wearing this sick hat, and I wore this hat on our way to vacation, on our way to Florida, and we had to run through the Detroit airport, and we barely made our flight. And I think the reason is these wings right here. These wings right here. I had the wings of a duck. I had the heart of a buck, and we conquered the Detroit airport thanks to Duck Buck Co. And you too can conquer your challenges, your mountains with Duck Buck Co. LCFP in the checkout in the promo code 15 save 15% off and come join the Duck Buck Bros or ladies. We don't discriminate. Come join the squad, and hey, ducks fly together. So do bucks. So be a part of Duck Buck Co.
Round of applause, Howie.
I,
Greatest promo
I
ever.
man, I might just hop off. I don't know what else I can add to that.
That was legendary. Unbelievable. Getting through the Detroit
But
airport.
real
Shout out.
quick, real quick, if you don't mind, and what's so impressive about Sig and Elko, these are not two historic programs with mountains of success behind them, man. It's so impressive. Obviously, Texas A&M has been historically, they put a lot of money into their program, but they don't have a history of championships or conference championships. And Indiana obviously handing off the losingest program record thanks to Sig over to Northwestern. It's impressive, man.
It really is. And great contrast between a lot of these historic programs that just fired their coaches, right? Brian Kelly couldn't do it at LSU. James Franklin couldn't do it at Penn State. Two of the most historic programs in the country. Indiana and Texas A&M going strong. I love it. Well, fellas, let's jump into some Week 12 previews. Reagan, you want to start us off?
Yeah, let's start off with Virginia traveling to Duke. Duke, 4.5 point favorite. This is the conference of chaos right now. And if you love chaos, you are a Duke Blue Devils fan because there is a world where Duke finds their way to the ACC championship game with 4 losses because only one of them is in conference right now. What's really impressive right now, Darian Mensah, number 4 in the country in passing yards total. It's going to be a really interesting game, I think. Big playoff implications. Aside from Pitt, Duke really is going to have a lot to say for the ACC, whether they get potentially an automatic bid or not. It's going to be crazy, man.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about Duke later. There's some wild stuff that could be happening there. I'm going to go over to a late night game in the Big 12. TCU traveling to play at number 12 BYU, 10:15 kickoff on ESPN. Let me tell you something. Every single game now is must win for BYU. They had a bad showing last week. Game day was at their game in Lubbock. They got beat pretty badly by Texas Tech, but this is a really good matchup for them. TCU has a gunslinger of a quarterback in Josh Hoover. He's thrown for almost 1,000 more yards than BYU's quarterback, Bear Bachmeier. We love Bear Bachmeier, all-time name, all-time number, 47 at the quarterback position. Absolutely ridiculous. But here's what I'm looking at in this TCU BYU matchup: the red zone and turnover margin. All right, BYU is 17th in the country with a +7 turnover margin, and they are 11th in the country in red zone defense. Josh Hoover throws the ball a lot, but has the tendency to turn it over, and TCU is only 94th in the country in red zone offense. So that's a big matchup in the Big 12.
It is indeed, Laner, and we go to the mid CC, oh, excuse me, the ACC. Friday night, Clemson traveling to Louisville. Clemson just trying to hold on to any hopes of just playing one more game in a Florida Bowl, or maybe come up to the Motor City and play a MAC team. They're just hoping for an extra game to make a little bit more money. Louisville fighting for a chance at the ACC championship game and hoping some other teams stumble. Cade Klubnik, Miller Moss, these are two quarterbacks before the year started that we were high on. We wanted to see what they did. Jeff Brom in his third year. We talked about second year coaches having success. Jeff Brom's now in his third year at Louisville, looking to take them over the hump. But we just talked about their quarterbacks. I think this game's won in the trenches. Clemson relies on Cade Klubnik a lot because their rushing offense just isn't that good. Yards per rush, they're 91st in the country. And then rushing yards a game, they're 100th. They rank 100th. On the flip side, Louisville ranks 25th in opponent yards per rush and 21st in opponent's yards per game. So Louisville shuts down the run. Clemson doesn't really run it too much, so it's gonna create a kind of a one-sided offense for Clemson. Louisville has a chance to really shut down the Tigers and keep their playoff hopes alive.
Next, let's talk for a minute about NC State visiting Miami. Miami's last home game of the year, 16.5 point favorite. Miami has zero margin at this point for error. NC State, this is an interesting scheduling dynamic. NC State coming off a bye. This will be Miami's fifth game in a row because they had that weird sandwich with the FSU game, the bye before and after early in the season. As a Georgia fan, Carson Beck looking a lot more like Georgia Carson Beck and a lot less like early season Carson Beck recently. A lot of turnovers, I believe 8 in 2 games before that Syracuse game last weekend. It's going to be really interesting to see if Miami, they don't need to just win. They need to look pretty convincing at this point because there's a scenario where obviously Miami might get an at-large spot, might not. They're kind of on the outside looking in. They need to handle their business first, obviously, before they consider looking ahead to the playoffs. Will they fade for a second year in a row? Going to be an interesting one.
It really is. Reagan hitting on something that Howie talked about preseason in one of our episodes, the crazy schedule that Miami had this year. Absolutely wild. The bye sandwich around Florida State and didn't leave the state of Florida until like week 8 or 9. Crazy. They got a tough road stretch to finish the year. I begged y'all in our group text to get this game. I wanted the 3:30, nope, not CBS slot, because CBS decided 3-6 Michigan State versus 3-6 Penn State should be over this game. And this is a top 25 matchup happening on the West Coast that will be in the 3:30 slot, not on CBS, but on the Big Ten Network. What a tragedy. We got number 21 Iowa at number 17 Utah. This is another playoff elimination game. Must win for both of these programs. The committee loves Iowa because Iowa only dropped one spot after losing at home. A great game, by the way. Reagan almost called that upset. A great upset alert call. This is two clashing styles. We talked about it a lot on the pod 2 years ago when we were entering into this conference expansion era. What in the world is it going to look like when these traditional Pac teams play these traditional Big Ten teams? And this is a great one to watch. We're going to see Iowa punt the ball a lot. We're going to see USC try to score and run up and down the field. Two absolutely clashing styles. Typical traditional Pac-12 versus traditional Big Ten. But man, Iowa, when you look at their schedules, when you just look at their schedule and pull it up and go down the list, they have a lot of really close losses and a lot of blowout wins. I'm talking they beat Minnesota by 30 plus. and they played Indiana and Oregon really tight. So this is a really good Iowa team, but they traditionally play a lot better at home. So it's going to be tough for them to get a win on the West Coast at USC.
Something to keep in mind before we switch off of that game is the weather is supposed to be atrocious again. In Iowa, they love their ugly football games. So big spread for an ugly game, 6.5.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Laner, you mentioned two teams that I'm going to next. Again, Friday night, Friday fun in the Big Ten. Minnesota traveling to Oregon. PJ Fleck taking the boat all the way to Autzen Stadium. Uh, Dante Moore looking to continue to keep his team up to pace with the leaders of the Big Ten. Um, biggest win that Minnesota had was against Nebraska, 24-6. Didn't allow Matt Rule's team to score a touchdown, but the story here is Minnesota is going to have to stop or at least slow down Dante Moore in Autzen Stadium, which is a really hard thing to do. Although the Hoosiers did just fine. Spread is 25.5, and I think the Ducks fly away here.
Whoa, 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 whoa. We need to clarify no affiliation here with Oregon. No affiliation.
No, no affiliation. Just tying it back into our favorite place on earth, our to go to shop at duckbuckco.com.
I love it. I'd like to go last. So, Laner, I want to kick it back to you real quick. I want to end with your home team here in a minute.
Let's go. Well, I can't remember who got the Notre Dame Pitt preview. We might just all have to tag team that one, but I'm going to go to number 10 Texas, a top 10 matchup at number 5 Georgia. This will be the 7:30 game on ABC. Kirk, Herb Street, and Chris Fowler will be on the call. How about hearing them calling the Big 12 game last week? That was fun. That BYU at Texas Tech game at noon. My question for this one, okay, and this is I probably oversimplified my game breakdown here. Texas has come from behind a lot the last few games. That's going to be almost impossible to do against Georgia. So the question that I have here is one, can Texas get out to a lead? And two, how big of a lead can they get out to? As we've talked about pretty much every week on the pod, Georgia is the best at making second half adjustments. They're tremendous when it comes to the second half, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Do we see Arch Manning go off and have a breakout game? He's certainly been trending up, but man, it's going to be tough to do on a Saturday night in Athens, Georgia.
You guys got to lean on that game. I'm curious. I.
It's a must win for Texas, but I trust Georgia too much. They're 2-0 against Texas last year. Um, I trust Kirby at home. I just do.
Yeah, I really like Georgia in that game. I'm not sold on anything Texas has done. I just I don't believe in the offense as much as I feel like I should for a start team.
Yeah. Interesting that the Georgia defense seems to, over the last couple of weeks, have sort of rounded into something of a recognizable form. So it'll be interesting to see there. Um, all right, last one for me. Oklahoma going to Josh Lane, your hometown team, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Tide are getting 5.5 points as the favorite. So a little breakdown on this. Oklahoma's got the number 7 scoring defense in the country, the number 4 rushing defense, and the number 22 passing defense in the country. John Mateer coming off a 19 for 29 game for 159 yards and a touchdown. Kind of weird seeing that big win against Tennessee and kind of pedestrian numbers for Mateer, honestly. To me, this game comes down to one person, Xavier Robinson, running back for Oklahoma. Dude's put up 224 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns over the last 2 games on 25 carries, carrying the rock for about 10 yards a carry. Going to be really interesting. This Alabama rush defense can be had. You saw that in the second half in the Georgia game earlier in the season. It can be had. Man, this game, I'm just going to stick to my philosophy on this one with Alabama this year. This is a huge game. This is a must-have for Bama. I think Oklahoma's a very good team, but I think they're way too dependent on John Mateer. This game has Ty Simpson making his Heisman case written all over it to me. I think Alabama wins. I think Alabama covers. And I think this is going to be more of a two-score game. I don't think it's going to be that close.
Wow.
That's my
I
call.
like I like to hear that. Obviously, backs against the wall for Oklahoma here. Got to have it spot. And another situation with Alabama facing a team off a bye. Um, this is a big spot. Alabama could get their first ever regular season win versus Oklahoma. They've yet to do it. So it's going to be a good one.
I think that leads me to my last one. So I'm gonna paint a picture for you guys. All right, you're in Chicago. You hop on the subway. You take that red line north, and you get off at Clark and Addison, and it just feels different. Okay, you feel like you're just at home. All right, and you make your way into the gates of the friendly confines. Well, this Saturday at noon, you'll find Michigan and Northwestern playing at Wrigley Field, and freshman Bryce Underwood has been real good for Michigan. He's been a real good staple at quarterback for them. Preston Stone, SMU transfer from Northwestern. He's going to need some stones to steal to handle the Michigan defense. And for a place that had about 8 inches of snow last weekend, forecast looks good, 61 degrees. In God's country of the friendly confines. For those of you that don't know where the Cubs play, I know we're not all baseball fans around here, but Michigan has won the last 8 meetings with the Wildcats, and that dates back to November of 2008. Again, with the divisions that Big Ten had, they didn't play every year. Northwestern's lost two straight Big Ten games, trying to not make it three and play big spoiler uh, against Michigan here on Saturday. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? Wolverines will win this game. Michigan's going to take that W and flip it upside down and fly the M in a win.
Dude, Howie, you've got me red in the face today, man. You're just on your game. I don't know what you had for dinner, bro, but you're just spitting fire tonight, man. I love it.
Howie, electric stuff, man. So many references in there too.
Dude,
That's unbelievable.
I love it, man.
We're just having fun. We're just having fun.
I love it. Man, we've talked about Michigan a lot lately on the pod. This is a huge spot for them. If they can get through this one, they got a big one to end the year with Ohio State.
I, we've been talking about them a little bit, and it never really clicked to me that they actually control their own destiny when it comes to the Big Ten championship game. And Ohio State stands in the way at the end of the year in the game. They handle this business. They get that game in a couple more weeks. It hadn't even clicked to me until last. I texted Laner the other day, and I'm like, "Have I just missed that?" It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it really is crazy. We've talked about it a lot as like a play-in game, but almost considering it as an at-large spot for Michigan, when in reality, one of their two losses is non-conference to Oklahoma. So they've put themselves in a great spot. They
On the
would,
road, on the
yeah.
road at Oklahoma too,
And
which
once
matters,
again,
and on the road
Ohio
at
State,
USC.
yeah. And once again, Ohio State would miss out on the Big Ten championship game, which is crazy. Michigan has just crushed them lately.
It's almost like, and if you watch the games, it's almost like Ohio State plays almost too conservative. Of like, I don't like, we don't want to do anything too crazy that takes us out of position to win the game. And so I just like it was the same way I felt last year when IU or when Michigan came to IU of just like do not get in this like slug it out rock'em sock'em robots game with Michigan because they'll suck you in and they'll limit your possessions and they'll run all over you and then all of a sudden like you're down two scores and you don't get the ball back for another 4 minutes and you're left with 37 seconds. You know what I mean? They just suck you into these games almost like Iowa can. Like Iowa could do the same thing to USC on Saturday and just suck them into this low possession game and let whatever happens happens.
Yeah, I on the pod a week ago, I think I was telling Laner, man, my former boss, who's a huge Ohio State guy, they are so frustrated with Ryan Day when it comes to this game specifically because of exactly what you said. We were talking ball, and none of the talk was about their championship last year. It was all about the lack of winning that game, which, first of all, I just love. And they are terrified that he's going to get suckered in, like you're saying, Howie, into playing Michigan's game. So, man, good stuff.
Howie on a roll. Come on, man. Let's go. Well, boys, let's close with the location of game day this week. Pittsburgh. Yes, it's an NFL stadium. Pitt shares it, but Pitt will be hosting game day, and they've got a noon kickoff against Notre Dame. This is a massive top 25 matchup. For those who, care a lot about the semantics of things, this was a really big deal for Notre Dame to get another top 25 matchup so they could put one of those on their resume to add to their USC win. But we talked about it a little bit last episode, Reagan. How we want to loop you in on this too. Pitt plays a massive role in the end of this season. We're going to get a Pitt Notre Dame matchup at home for Pitt. We're going to get a Pitt Miami matchup at home for Pitt. And that's going to be another common opponent situation. But do you guys have any thoughts on this big matchup this Saturday
Yeah.
between Notre Dame and
Yeah.
Pitt?
And this game really isn't a big this isn't a big matchup if you talk to Pat Narduzzi. The guy says he's content with a 102 or a 103 point loss. We now
What
live
was
in,
that?
you
That was
know,
bizarre to me.
I think that Pat Narduzzi is one of the most authentic people in the sport, where he's the guy that was ringing the bell a year ago on people stealing his players before the portal was open and all that tampering stuff. I genuinely think to him, his team's focus is on trying to win the ACC. And how that plays into this game, it'll be interesting where maybe they go in a little bit more relaxed, a little bit less pressure that they're putting it on themselves. And they're just going to focus really on the business of winning the ACC. Maybe, maybe it helps them.
Yeah, I think this is a massive game for both teams. I mean, I understand where Pitt's coming from as well. Of like, well, it's not a conference game, but it's a good opportunity to tune up for some huge games coming down the stretch for you, and for Notre Dame. If you like, you don't get an extra Saturday, like to go prove in a conference championship that you're worthy. So you drop this game against Pitt. I like again. We look at all the two of Notre Dame's losses, and well, Texas A&M, like they're legit. Like that's a legit loss. Miami one is like week by week it looks worse and worse. But that's a different you would say, well, that's a different Miami team. But like, okay, you lose to Pitt at 22, like how far do they sink as everything else in the conferences shake up after these next 2 weeks and then the conference championship week? Like where does Notre Dame fall with three losses? And I can't see a world where they have three losses and get into the college football playoff. And if they do, then you are clearly disvaluing conferences. And there's like Alabama should just get out of the SEC. Like in that case, like honestly, just go play whoever you want, or Texas or, one of these other teams, just go get out of the conference, go be Notre Dame and go be in the college football playoff every year and just worry about your team. Like it's basically what that would be signifying to the nation.
Yeah, totally agree. Man, it's going to be interesting because I know the committee is looking at this common opponent for Notre Dame and Miami to see both teams are going to go in and give Pitt their absolute best shot and try and I don't think that either of them are going to stop trying to score potentially.
Right. I think that helps Notre Dame a lot too because of their style of play. They make a lot of explosive plays, whether it's CJ Carr finding Jordan Faison or whether it's one of those two-headed monsters that they have at running back in Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. I want to close with talking about Pitt. Man, you mentioned the word authentic when it comes to Pat Narduzzi, Reagan. Talk about a guy that just doesn't care what the outside perception is. He went to true freshman quarterback Mason Henschel this year, and the guy has been a renaissance. I mean, Pitt had a slow start, and this guy has been electric for them and a huge reason why they're sitting at 7-2 and in the top 25 and hoping to ruin a couple teams' seasons and make a run at the ACC championship. So, a lot of credit to them. Big deal for them. 2 weeks in a row where we get an off the map or off the radar location for game day. We talked about it last week. Texas Tech and Lubbock waited a long time to host game day again. Same situation here with Pitt. It's great to see, man. So I'm excited for this matchup.
Let me ask you guys this. Do you guys think that the constant chant of SEC bias sort of swung game day away from the Georgia Texas game?
I think potentially. I just think like if you look at the shakeup. So I think about like last week, Texas Tech BYU is huge for the Big 12 like conference championship title game. Like that was a huge game for that, and it's shaken some like that's another domino that's felt in that conference. Um, but also as far as ESPN goes, like think about one of their best shows right now besides game day is the Pat McAfee show, and he is in Indianapolis when he every day when he's on from 12 to 2 or whatever. Like he's in Midwest. He's not he's been in the middle of Big Ten country. And so I think and then he does his show from that location on Friday. So I think that might be another thing of like, well, hey, let's just keep moving it around. And Pat's gonna go to Lubbock on Friday, and it's going to drum up kind of the energy that you want from game day. And then we're going to go to, Autzen Stadium for Oregon and whoever, and then that's going to drum up everything in the West Coast. So I just think that's part of it too, is like you have like a cash cow almost, a ratings cow,
Oh yeah.
and Pat McAfee. So I think moving it around is good.
Oh, I totally agree.
Obviously, you go to an SEC game every week.
Oh no, I
That's a
totally
great
agree.
point.
Totally agree. It was just kind of a random one when I saw that when I'm like, there that okay.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Howie. I didn't even think of it that way, but man, McAfee, it's a hometown situation for him. He does have a lot of pull right now, and by golly, I got a lot of respect for him, man, and what he's doing. And I know just a few days ago they were on site in South Carolina with the Marines for their 250th birthday. Really cool stuff. A lot of people have opinions on him. He's a polarizing figure. I hate that I even said that word, but I'm a big fan. I think he's added a great dimension to game day and made it a lot of fun. It's helped ease the transition of losing Corso too, in my opinion. Another
Oh
big
dude,
personality,
him and
a lot of fun.
Saban are just keep them together.
They're tremendous together. Remember early on when people tried to stoke up that like they didn't like each other? Dude, the years Saban's last year coaching Alabama, he was on the McAfee show as a weekly guest every single week when he was still coaching, which like was shocking to me, but what a gift looking back that his last year I got to see him on Pat McAfee's show every single week, weekly appearance. So those guys love each other. Guys, any other kind of off the radar games we didn't cover or give full game previews to that have piqued your interest?
Yeah, I think that the Kiffin Bowl is sort of what I said that early in the year. I know with the LSU Ole Miss game when that still meant something earlier in the year. But Lane Kiffin's potential new team, if you believe the betting markets in the rumor mill, going to his current team, Ole Miss. Florida, 14 and a half point dog. Which version of Florida shows up? Have they completely quit on the year? They bench Lagway. They look terrible against Kentucky. Kentucky's railed off a couple of good wins in a row. I don't know. If the version that showed up against Georgia shows up, you never know. Ole Miss might get popped. I wouldn't put a dollar on this game, but just something to throw out there.
Howie, I don't know if you see any. I wanted to point out, I
Yeah.
don't have a breakdown or anything, but South Florida at Navy,
Oh, that's what
obviously.
I was just getting ready to look.
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, what like these are two G5 teams that are really like they want that last spot. They want that G5 spot. And Navy, look, if you're a vibes person when you're looking to pick games, like what was Tuesday? Tuesday was Veterans Day. Navy coming off like Navy this weekend would be a great place to look. You can never go wrong. I don't want to say betting, but you can never go wrong rooting for our service academies.
I love it, Howie. That's an excellent call. The only other one, Reagan and Howie, that I saw that I'm like, all right, I gotta point this out just because of the Big 12 dynamics and conference races is Arizona at 25 Cincinnati. Cincinnati has somewhat coasted and they've got a very they got a huge matchup the next week. I would hate for this to be a look ahead spot for them because they got BYU coming and TCU to end the year. Man, Arizona's 6-3, and they've had a good thing going there. So this could be a potential sneaky spot. If I had to pick an upset, I might pick this one, but man, I like Cincinnati too much in that spot.
I think Cincinnati is going to. I think they're going to make the Big 12 title game. I think they're gonna, and I think they could potentially win it. I really
Wow,
do. I
That's a
think.
call. I love
I
it.
think. I think they'd really have to. Obviously, they have to play well. Um, but I think they get Arizona, and I think they get BYU next week, and then I think I. I mean, you just have to not look ahead. You got to take care of business at TCU that final game of the year, and then I think I do. I really think they could win the Big 12, and I think that's something that's not on anybody's radar right now. Because again, Cincinnati's like second or third in the Big 12, and they're ranked 25th. Like nobody is like that's a throwaway spot in the rankings. Usually, like when you're looking at like the rankings or the AP poll or whatever, like you stop looking when you get to like 18, like you're 15, like you don't care. Like it's uh but this is a sneaky team at 25 that is very much so in the hunt to win the Big 12 and make a splash in the college football playoff.
The only other one I want to mention, Howie, another Big 12 one, is 13 Utah at Baylor in Waco, Texas. Man, the committee loves Utah. I also love Utah. Reagan, you mentioned it. Kyle Whittingham, one of the best coaches in the country. A lot of consistency, a long tenure there. Huge bounce back year for Utah. Man, the committee put them at 13 as a two-loss team over a couple SEC and Big Ten programs. They think very highly of the Big 12 and this Utah program. But Baylor, man, Sawyer Robertson can chuck it. Aranda's in a must-win spot, back against the wall there, and it's a home game for them in Waco. Not an easy spot.
You know, potential upset spot for Wisconsin over Indiana. I'm just kidding, Howie.
How we got to see his game of the year last week.
That's funny. That's
Well,
Hey,
funny.
fellas, huge, huge week, man. Unbelievable stuff. I'm excited about this week. Week 12 is going to be incredible.
oh,
All
dude,
right,
this
I
is one of the
wanted
most
to
stacked slates all year.
yeah, it really is. I want to tee us up for a conversation on the college football playoff rankings. And in this umbrella of a conversation, we might have some problems, some things we like, some hot takes, whatever. But man, I was watching these rankings and there was a moment where I just was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And the moment that that happened for me was when they listed seeds 1 through 10, and then they listed seeds 11 and 12. And obviously, in doing this, they put Miami and USF, the 15th ranked team and the 24th ranked team, in those spots. We know highly unlikely Miami wins the ACC, but they just slotted them there as the highest ranked ACC team, and then USF as the highest ranked American team. I saw a video of Danny Cannell. I don't typically agree with a lot of what Danny Cannell says. Danny Cannell brought up an excellent point, and he said, why in the world do we guarantee a G5 playoff spot? In what world do we say, hey, you know what? Oklahoma, you're ranked 11th, but hey, man, this USF team, we're going to stick them in ahead of you. And the fact that this year, Miami and USF end up being these two teams just this week that are projected to be in there as this, like, instead of going 1 through 12, we go 1 through 10, and then we go 15 and 24. It just doesn't make sense. The 5+7 format, I'm done with it. Just give me the top 12 teams or go a straight up like AQ model. But like this half and half wishy washy, it just doesn't make any sense to me, especially when you think about, man, USF has some quality wins, but they got boat raced by Miami head to head. And Miami might miss out on the playoff by missing out on the ACC championship, but then USF might make the playoff as the highest ranked G5 team. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I saw a tweet saying it's the most Miami thing ever that the two teams that they beat this year would find their way to the playoff over them. It would be the most Miami thing ever. You know, you mentioned, first of all, Danny Cannell. I guess a broken clock is technically right twice a day. Um, you go back and listen to him, or you listen to Klatt, and you listen to some of these just kind of, I view them as just puppets and clickbaiters, honestly. Um, these are the kind of guys that barked and cried for an expanded playoff, and they knew that this came with this kind of thing. So it's really hard for me to take somebody like that seriously now that there's issues with the thing that they so wanted and they cried for. It was always going to be inherently broken. And I wonder when people will realize enough is enough. Is it when we go to 14 teams? Is it when we go to 16? I've seen people talking about 24 teams, and at some point just, slot 72 teams in and then just have the regular season be a all-out playoff 1 through 72. Like, what are we doing, man? I totally agree. It's a clown show.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is like what kind of what we have this year. We have some G5 teams that are losing to G5 teams, and they're all trying to get in. And like they might have a loss then to like Tulane. We thought Tulane was going to be our G5 team at the beginning of the year. They got absolutely walloped by Ole Miss. They lose to a couple other G5 teams, and they're no longer even in the conversation. I think like you need a G5 team that's either running through all other G5 teams, which we don't have that, or you need or like and is undefeated and beats a big name school like Ole Miss or
Cincinnati
whatever.
2020. Cincinnati 2020.
Exactly.
Earn your way
Exactly.
in.
Earn your way in. Or like you either need to go in undefeated and not play a big dog, but beat every other team you play, or you need to be one or two losses to teams that are going to be in the playoffs or just outside the playoffs, right? Kind of like, well, we beat Ole Miss, who beat, for example, Georgia. I know they didn't, but like who beat Georgia, who's in the college football playoff kind of thing, like the transitive property type of thing. But like, don't kind of pretend that a Memphis or some a team like that is going to compete or going to be earned like has earned that spot in there when somebody, let's say from the Big Ten, SEC, has played this gauntlet of a schedule all year and gets left on the outside because Memphis, well, we need a G5 team.
It also creates this weird thing where do you guys know what the most valuable slot in the college football playoff has been the first year of this
Oh
expanded
yeah.
thing?
Yes,
The
the
five
five
seed.
spot.
I love
100%.
where my team is sitting right now on the outside looking in of the SEC championship game, because if we find our way to that five, I think Texas Tech, if they win out and they handle their business, they'll probably jump us and get that five seed and they'd be deserving. But that five seed gets the glory of hosting a playoff game against a cow to the slaughter. And
Yeah, and
then
think
more often
about
than not,
oh yeah.
that four, no, no, no. And then that four seed it had been last year the weakest conference champion. So they changed that this year. So that'll be good. At least you'll probably get the loser of either the SEC or Big Ten championship game. So that'll be deserved at least. But it creates a weird, dynamic.
Think about the reality too of the 5 seed. You're getting a home playoff game against likely a G5 team every year or a massive advantage. I think that the spread right now if Georgia hosted USF would be 17 and a half. Well, this is also just because we have a dumb college football calendar. You're right in the middle of portal season. You're heading into it. So a lot of these team seasons are over, except for these 12 teams that are left. And all these dudes are leaving their schools, and high school recruits are out there. And you get to host recruits for a home playoff game that you should absolutely dominate. Your fans get to have a game. It creates revenue and buzz for the school. It's a massive advantage. But I go back to this too. We created this 5+7 system, and the whole point was we want to incentivize conference championship races. Well, guess what we also did to conferences? We expanded them, we beefed them up, and we took away divisions, and now we have tiebreakers determine who actually plays in the conference championship games. It's about the dumbest logic you could find in having a 5+7 model. I'm ready to be done with it. I'm ready to just go, hey, 1 through 12. I don't need to see number 15 Miami and number 24 USF. I love the state of Florida. I love where I live. I love Alex Golish. It's a great story. But I'd rather see 11 Oklahoma and 12 BYU in there.
Totally agree, man. Just go a year back. Boise State earned that playoff spot. They weren't handed it. They were handed the bye, but they earned that spot. Go earn it.
100%. And that's the thing. Like every year, there's going to be an opportunity for those top 12 teams to prove it. What was it, 2016 or 17 UCF? If we had an expanded playoff, they would have been in, right? Like,
2017. It was the year that Georgia Bama played the second time.
yeah, like that would have been a great year for USF to make it. But just because there's a couple years here and there where there's an awesome Cinderella story doesn't mean we need to make it mandatory. All right, guys, I'm going to go a little in the weeds here, but bear with me here. I've got a couple flaws, a couple pieces of beef with these rankings. Okay, um, we have number 17 USC and number 18 Michigan. Do you guys know who won that matchup head to head this year? Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what? Why do we have that 17 and 18
Yeah.
there?
And at the same time, Miami Notre Dame.
Exactly.
But then they'll slot Georgia ahead of Ole Miss because of that.
And
Sorry, I didn't mean to
Alabama ahead
interrupt
of
you.
Georgia. The logic just doesn't add up across the board.
Where over the last couple of games, Georgia has looked a little bit better than Alabama. A couple people have been saying that I've
100%.
listened to. I'm
Okay, I
sorry, I
have
didn't mean
it.
to interrupt your rant, man. Go
No,
ahead.
you helped me finish my thought. That's exactly where I was going. All right, so I have a very interesting scenario here. Okay, I want to give you guys a couple blind resumes and you tell me, both of you, who should be the higher ranked team here, okay? Both these teams are 6 and 3. They're both three-loss teams. Both of them have two of their three losses at home, all right? One team lost at what they were currently ranked against them at the moment they played them to the number 9 team, the number 11 team, and the number 16 team. All right. The other team lost to the number 6 team, the number 6 team again, and the number 18 team. All right. They both have four conference wins. One of them is 0-1 against non-conference Power 4 opponents, and the other is 1-0 against non-conference Power 4 opponents. Do you guys know who I'm talking about?
I am so visual, bro, that I would need to see that data.
Yeah, that was way too much
No,
just for
you're
audio.
good.
I wish we had a graphic we could show you guys the blind resume, but I basically just described to you number 21 Iowa and number 23 Tennessee. And my point is this: Iowa's 0-1 non-conference Power 4 matchups. They lost to their rivals, Iowa State. Tennessee is 1-0 non-conference Power 4 matchups. They beat Syracuse. We all know Syracuse, who they are now, is not who they were at the beginning of the year. Steve Angeli's injury and whatnot. But to me, it's like, okay, they're both very similar. Iowa lost to Oregon, Indiana, and unranked Iowa State. But Tennessee lost to Alabama, Georgia, and Oklahoma. All three of those teams inside the top 11 right now. Neither of them has very many impressive wins, but I just find it interesting that Iowa sits at 21. They didn't get knocked down too much, but Tennessee stays at 23. I just don't, again, it's very nitpicky, but Tennessee, in my opinion, based on this data, should be ahead of Iowa.
You forget quality losses, Josh. Man, two double-digit point losses. You forget the criteria.
Yeah, the committee loves quality losses.
Oh man.
I just think there's some projection based in there because I think that Iowa, they have this huge win against USC this weekend. And then if you get that win, they have a little more of a navigable schedule. So I just think some of these times, man, there's projections based into it. I think about that with where Notre Dame lands. There's just some interesting things, man. It's pretty crazy. Anything stand
Yeah,
out
and
to y'all?
I think some of that is what we kind of talked about with, Kurt Signetti and like the snake oil, right? Of like, stay away from that stuff. But like it's hard when they make this big show about revealing all of this, right? The college football playoff top 25. And they do put projections in there, right? And these are like the committee is a committee of people that, love college football and watch it every weekend or and are looking, watch it every weekend, watch their SEC team every weekend. And so like they kind of just say, "Oh, yeah, they should beat this team. They should beat this team." And it is kind of snake oil to put Iowa in that spot. And then what happens when USC runs all over them? Or what happens if they beat the absolute brakes off of USC at home, right? So that's interesting. I mean, Tennessee. Thinking about Tennessee, like I had high hopes for them, especially against quality opponents, and and I just didn't see it, and I'm like, it was disappointing. But also think about last year, and they made it in, and they went up to Ohio State, they went to Columbus, and looked like they had never played football before. Like Ohio State just totally neutralized their offense that was explosive the whole year and just neutralized it, made it look like it was a high school offense. And so, like, I feel like the committee is trying to like not have any of that either, right? So that's where projections, I guess, can come into play, where you're kind of just guessing because you want every game to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just I'm a big believer in things handle themselves. You know, we've got a lot more data
totally.
points to go. The biggest thing for me is the head-to-heads need to matter or they need to not. And they need to be consistent. I just wish there was consistent application. If Alabama is going to sit ahead of Georgia, Georgia is going to sit ahead of Ole Miss because of those head-to-head things, that makes sense. Then have Miami ahead of Notre Dame. Then just have Michigan ahead of USC. Be consistent in the application of the rules. That's all.
100%. Hey, what do you guys think of Texas Tech making that huge leap?
Deserved. Deserved. I think that Texas Tech is a very good team. And I said it a minute ago. I think if they handle their business, I think that they're going to jump to five. They would have a potential argument depending on who loses the conference championships in the Big Ten and the SEC. They might have an argument to jump up if they really handle their business. But again, I think they'll have the opportunity to make that argument stronger. Handle business, win big, continue to look excellent.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I feel like BYU slid a respectable amount. They slid past teams that have continued to win, and then they nestled them right next to another Big 12 team that like it's just in a good stopper spot. Like we're not going to put BYU under Utah, so that's where they're going to land.
100%. Yeah, and I bring all this up. You're exactly right, Reagan. It will totally sort itself out. That's part of the fun, though, is we get to talk about it. And the reason I point some of these things out, though, is that I've always had this problem with rankings in general before the College Football Playoff Committee was even a thing. They're way too week to week. And I wish that they would take the entire scope of the season into consideration. I get that, and I even weigh end of the season more than the beginning of the season. But if you're going to have criteria, but not abide by it, that's frustrating. If you're going to weigh stuff more recently, then just come out and say it because that's my beef with some pointing out some of these things.
Totally agree. Just be upfront with the criteria. If winning later, and again, you're not the same football team early as you are late. I think I'll speak to my guy. Gunner is not the same quarterback as he is late. People get better, hopefully less injured as the season gets on. They progress. Just say it. Just
Yeah,
say, hey, the eye test tells us that we think that Notre Dame would beat Miami if they played today. Okay, I could live with that. Just be upfront.
totally, totally. All right, so let's
And
have
I
some
think
fun. Oh, go
and
ahead,
I think
Howie.
that's why Notre Dame still has right. We when they had two losses, we were like, oh no way, no way. If they get in the college football playoff, that's it's rigged. We can't have it, right? But like I feel like if I'm Notre Dame, I'm going to keep scheduling those type of games week 1 and week 2, and I'm going to keep my my service academies and my the Stanfords that are horrible and those kind those kinds of teams in the back half of the season, and the Pitt, which could be a tough spot for them, but when they put that on the schedule, Pitt's usually not top 25. We're gonna put those later in the year, and we're gonna that way if we stumble at the beginning, well, we've won 7 straight games.
Well,
So
Howie, what I love about Notre Dame is, man, they're claiming a huge Big Ten win over Purdue, and they're claiming a massive SEC win over Arkansas, and they're claiming big time ACC wins over Stanford and Boston College. Do you guys realize they've beaten the last place team in all three of those Power Four conferences? I mean, I don't care if you play Stanford or Mercer. Like, that's what the committee is coming down to here when they value Notre Dame so much and they give them these strength of record stats. Brother, play Mercer, but like, play Arkansas, whatever. But like next week, turn around and play Alabama, and the next week play Georgia and Tennessee. Like, go ahead, play Purdue, but then the next week play
Go
Michigan and play
go
Ohio
play
State and
Indiana.
play
Go
Indiana.
play Ohio
Like,
State. Yeah.
they're cherry picking and saying, "Man, we got a huge Big Ten win." Like, brother, everybody in the Big Ten beat Purdue this year. It's just, it kills me. So that's what cracks me up. All right, guys, let's end on something fun here. Okay, Reagan, you alluded to it. The Duke Blue Devils could absolutely terrorize the ACC. Duke has a crazy scenario where they're sitting at 5-4 on the year, but they are tied for a top of the conference lead in the ACC. If they can win out, if they can win this week against number 19 Virginia, they can go down and take care of business against their rivals, North Carolina, and finish out the year and beat Wake Forest. They very well could be playing in the ACC championship game as an 8-4 team.
And they're going to be favored in all three of those games.
You
They're
mentioned Darian
favored
Mensah.
four and a
He's a
half.
stud. He's a stud. He also lost to his old team Tulane earlier this year. So they have a G5 loss. They also lost to UConn last week, and they lost to Big Ten opponent Illinois. So they have a terrible resume from an at-large perspective, but the reality that they're still in the ACC race is crazy because 8-4 Duke might be lower ranked than not just one G5 champ, but two G5 conference champs, which would potentially exclude the ACC from the playoff. Or, as you mentioned, Reagan, Miami gets in as an at large, but the conference winner is out of the playoff.
That's my hot take. I think that Miami is going to be huge Duke Blue Devil fans over the next 3 weeks. This is my conspiracy. If Miami handles their business, that's a huge if. Miami's not looked very good over the last month of the football season. If they finish their season 10-2 and the Blue Devils end up winning the ACC, something tells me that the committee would find a justification to put Miami in to say, hey, we still had an ACC team in here. It was the best ACC team. That's my conspiracy is I think that the committee will find a way to try and keep the peace, the uneasy peace with the P4 by putting Miami in.
And I think we're forgetting something though in all this. There is a Heisman Trophy candidate hanging around in Atlanta, Georgia right now, and Haynes King that everybody's like, well, the ACC could do this and the ACC could do that. Georgia Tech has looked real good this year. Real good with their only loss. Now, again, you lose to NC State and everybody's going to go, well, here we go, right? But Boston College, depending on what Pitt does against Notre Dame, that could be massive. If Pitt beats Notre Dame and then you turn around and beat Pitt as Georgia Tech, that's your makeup for NC State. And then you get your SEC foe in Georgia, who what was it last year went to three overtimes,
Try more.
4, 5, 6.
Keep
Something.
going.
It was 7 or 8.
Yeah,
It's 8. It was 8. I
8.
remember
Unreal.
I had 8 heart attacks on my couch over there watching that game.
So you go to 8 overtimes with Georgia last year, and I think Georgia's team is better. Georgia Tech's team is better this year than last year. So I mean, that's not a cakewalk for Georgia. And Reagan, I know you never view Georgia Tech as a cakewalk, but there have been some years it has definitely been a cakewalk. Uh, so I think Haynes King is that guy, and they're gonna waltz. I think they're gonna waltz into the ACC championship game, and I think if they get somebody that just limps in there, right? We got a couple of teams that are 6-2, in the ACC. I think, and you get one of those in there with Georgia Tech, I think they could absolutely take advantage of them. Like Louisville, I think if Louisville finds a way or Duke finds a way to get in there, I think Georgia Tech would just lick their chops at that. Absolutely.
It's a great call, Howie. We love Haynes King around here. What a pull. Absolutely needs to be a Heisman finalist, man.
I got 2 more weeks of loving Haynes King.
We love Haynes King. All right, guys, let me fire off a couple rapid fire if you're good with it, just to close here on a fun note. Any chance we think Oregon drops one of these next three games? They got Minnesota, USC, and Washington.
Yes,
No,
I think they drop one. I think any chance Alabama or Georgia drops one.
of course there's a chance. I think we've got a hard game this weekend against Texas. We mentioned Georgia Tech. I've never been some. There were about 2 years where that was an easy game in the 2021, 2022, the real tough years for us. And then Alabama has a really tough game this weekend. I don't think I have my opinion that's going to be a double-digit win, but there's a game that every Auburn fan has circled on their calendar to end the year.
100%. Never feel good about that. Oklahoma's going to be really good this week too, man. They got a great defense. Alabama's offense looked
I
a little wonky against LSU. I think there's a spot where they drop one.
I think both teams went out.
You guys think our undefeateds all stay undefeated? Ohio State, IU, and A&M?
I think I think that Ohio State Michigan game at the end of the year. How do you, it's again, I go back to what I said in the Georgia Bama preview 2 months ago. How do you make that call? Michigan has been that big of an underdog, the bigger underdog last year than they will be this year. It's a big spot. I think Indiana wins out. I think Indiana's punched their ticket, all but punched their ticket to the Big Ten championship game. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I think. Go ahead, Delana. Go ahead.
I think Indiana at the end of the year could be the number one team in the country. Let's say Ohio State drops one to Michigan. Let's say A&M drops one to Texas. I don't want to jinx them, but man, I feel so good about Ole Miss making the playoff. But they're like sneaky at the end of the year. That Egg Bowl is always going to be tricky. That Friday after Thanksgiving, Mississippi State's looked a lot better this year. Florida could be a big bounce back spot for them. But man, when I'm looking at this top 10 right now, I really like where Indiana and Ole Miss are more than anybody else.
Yeah, I think I just talked down the Texas offense, but I think Texas beats Texas A&M in that last
Howie,
week of the season.
that's where I was going to go, bro. I was going to say of the top five teams, I think that's the game that I think has the most upset potential. Totally agree with that call, dude.
And then we can talk about the committee having a 9-3 Texas team that beat an undefeated Texas A&M team and lost by 7 early in the year when Arch Manning was not very good on the road to the defending national champs. What do they do in that spot? I think that's where we end
But
it, boys.
what happens? We could just go scenario after scenario. But what happens if Ohio State loses to Michigan, who loses to Northwestern this weekend?
Wild. It's going to be a
Then
chaotic end of the
Michigan,
year.
that's two losses in conference for Michigan. They're not in the
Yep.
Big Ten championship game.
They're not in the Big Ten. It'd be
Yeah, I think they're out
uh,
because
Oregon.
yeah, I think Oregon and the other two are still in. I think it goes to common losses, and so Oregon has the loss to Indiana, who didn't play Ohio State. So I don't know.
That's a good
I don't know what
call.
the tiebreaker would go to there.
That's why it's still a mess, man. We need to bring back the pack. We need to bring back the SWC. It's
Hey,
got to happen. It's never
it's
happening,
the
but that'd be the best.
it's the Pac-2.
Yeah, and I think that's where divisions are important. I think at this point, especially Big Ten, I feel like you could split them pretty evenly. Like there's top four teams in the Big Ten, and then you could just go, okay, Michigan, Michigan, Ohio State, we're going to put you on the same side because you guys are going to play for a chance to go to the Big Ten championship every year, and then just divvy them up from there. Because after the top five, six, it gets real stinky in the Big Ten.
For sure. For sure. Boys, this was a fun episode. As always, we are powered by the legends at duckbuckco.com. Make sure you use code LCFP for 15% off. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, make sure you're subbed to the channel. Leave us a review. Send us a text. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, any hot takes you have. We're fired up, boys. Thanks for joining me this episode. It was a pleasure.
Duck, buck, go to the moon.
Thanks for
Let's
having us, man.
go. All right, enjoy week 12, everybody. We'll see you.